Okay, so I'm calling this short video excitation contraction coupling. I want to quickly review what we've talked about in the previous 4 or 5 short videos with respect to muscle contraction so far. We reviewed the sliding filament theory and the contraction cycle of skeletal muscle contraction. And so that would involve our thick and our thin filaments. We also reviewed their structure and how the thick and thin filaments interact to shorten the sarcomere, which shortens the myofibril in skeletal muscle, and then that in turn shortens the muscle cell and shortens the whole muscle overall. We reviewed the structure of the neuromuscular junction, and remember that that's the place where the motor neuron comes into pretty close contact with the skeletal muscle fiber. And then lastly, we reviewed the steps in generating an action potential, first sort of generally in any excitable tissue. And in this particular first short video, we talked about the steps that are involved in generating an action potential, depolarization and repolarization. We talked about sodium and potassium ions, and we talked about sodium and potassium voltage-gated channels that produce the depolarization and the repolarization. And then we went on and we talked more specifically about the steps that are involved in generating an electrical signal at muscle tissue specifically. And that's where we introduced the idea of acetylcholine binding to receptors and opening a sodium channel there. So going back to the learning objectives here, we're still talking about excitation contraction coupling, neuromuscular junction, action potential, and acetylcholine. You can still find this information on page 404 and 405 of Saladin, and still this big 4-page figure that he's got, 407 to 410, may be very helpful to you. Okay. So what we were looking at here, this is actually a close-up of a muscle cell. So let me orient you to this. This is our muscle cell. This is going to be the cytosol or the sarcoplasm here of our muscle cell, and then this is going to be the extracellular fluid out here. Okay, now we see then, you should be able to see the sarcolemma. This is going to be our plasma membrane of our muscle cell, and you can see where it dips down into the muscle cell. This is going to be our T-tubule right here. You can also see that we've got kind of a blow up of a myofibril right here, and specifically this author is just showing you one sarcomere. You can see the thick and the thin filaments here and how they're oriented, just like we had seen many times before. And then furthermore down here you can see we've got a specific blow up of a thin filament. All right, now the last thing that I want to show you about this, that I want to orient you to, we'll come back up here to the T-tubules where they dip down. This author is also showing you the sarcoplasmic reticulum. And remember, this is the storage place. It's a membranous storage place for calcium in muscle cells. And specifically, he's showing you the terminal cisternae, right? That's kind of that bulby or cul-de-sac kind of end of each terminal cisternae. And so where we've got this place where the terminal cisternae of 2 different parts of the sarcoplasmic reticulum kind of butt up against the T-tubule here, this is actually a triad right here. 2 terminal cisternae and a T-tubule. Now this is showing our muscle cell at rest. So this is before we have generated an action potential in this particular muscle cell. So we have no electrical signal that has been generated so far in this particular muscle cell. This means that we have no calcium release from the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and we have no calcium in the cytosol here. If we have no calcium in the cytosol, then we have not interacted with troponin or tropomyosin, and so the tropomyosin on our thin filaments, is actually still occluding the active sites on the actin. All right, so this is very much representing a muscle cell at rest, So what happens when we generate an action potential here? What we see is that what we're not showing here is the action potential traveling from the neuron to the muscle cell, and we're not seeing the generation of that action potential by the binding of acetylcholine to the acetylcholine receptors in the plasma membrane. We're seeing what happens after that. So our action potential has been generated here in the muscle cell, right? Because sodium channels that are voltage gated have been opened, and we see that this depolarization, a wave of depolarization, the action potential travels all along the muscle cell. As this action potential travels along the plasma membrane and it travels into the T tubules, right, by the same mechanism here, we see then that this action potential interacts with receptors that are linked here between the sarcolemma and the sarcoplasmic reticulum. And these receptors happen to be calcium channels. So when the action potential reaches down into the T tubules, then it opens these calcium channels here, and calcium then flows out of the sarcoplasmic reticulum, where its concentration is very high, into the cytosol, where its concentration is very low. When the calcium concentration in the sarcoplasm or in the cytosol of the muscle cell begins to increase, calcium interacts with troponin. Calcium causes a change in the troponin shape, which causes it to kind of move, and it rolls the tropomyosin away from the active sites on actin. Now that the active sites on the actin molecules are available and not occluded, we can have a cross-bridge formation between the myosin head on the thick filament and this active sites, and then we can initiate sliding filaments and muscle contraction. So during our active site, during our excited site here, this is what we're seeing, is that the calcium is actually going to be released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and then it will initiate muscle contraction. So if we look at these side by side over here, this is going to be before our action potential is generated in a muscle cell, and this is going to be after our action potential has been generated in a muscle cell. So I hope you can see that the signal to the muscle cell to begin contraction is calcium. And the calcium is going to be coming from the sarcoplasmic reticulum in response to that action potential that's going to be generated in the sarcolemma, in the plasma membrane. All right. So this is, again, just to reiterate, the action potential is going to be the excitation part, and the sliding filaments are going to be the contraction part. All right. So now I've got a question for you. I've posted this on the discussion board already. Since we've talked about what needs to happen for contraction of skeletal muscle to occur, what has to happen for relaxation of a skeletal muscle to occur? So after we've had contraction, how can we get that muscle to relax, right? And then additionally, I've also set some questions for you in TopPad. They're in review mode so that you can access them at any time, all right? So from here, we're going to move on to some other properties of muscle. The next thing that we'll talk about is actually the length-tension relationship in a sarcomere. So stay tuned for that. Thanks very much.